You're lost in a fading light. I'm freezing tonight under bottomless skies. But I go on without you, me, myself, and I. Myself and I. To the ends of the earth, ashes and dirt, whatever it's worth. I'm searching for you, heaven I'd move, all hell I'd walk through. I'd cross the line and back again for you.
Out of fear, we kept running, tried to hide away. Can you hear? War is coming, beckoning our fate. This is the day that we stand up, this is the day we fight. We'll take our place, we won't give in, our victory's in sight. Only a sword in our hand, but we enter the lion's den. We're not waiting for a war, we bring the war to them. We bring the war to them.
Sorry, not gonna lie, I kind of wanted to just keep on jamming instead of switching over to the live stream, but I know y'all are on here for the live stream to review some stocks and crypto charts. So let me get everything set up, make sure we're all good, and I will dive in. Somebody want to confirm my mic sounds good? I just want to make sure before I actually go into detail on some of these things, because I did change some settings. So if it sounds good, throw some thumbs up, likes, comment either in the lounge over on Ethical Trading chat or over in Bullish Raid Lounge, Facebook, doesn't matter, anywhere. Good. Cool. Okay, there we go. Alright, so Bitcoin, crypto. I'm going to start with Bitcoin, then I'll shift over to several stocks. If you're not into crypto, just hang tight for just a minute and I'll switch over to stocks here in a moment for you. I do want to touch base on crypto real quick because I know people are freaking out and really there's no need to here. If anything, this is a great opportunity to dive back in on some positions that you feel like you may have missed out on previously. So for me with crypto here, definitely bullish still. I'll show you why. Let me zoom in on the chart a bit for you. So you still have Bitcoin with this massive cup and handle set up on the weekly time frame. You can see as well that we're still respecting that move. More importantly, I'm going to jump over here though and zoom in a bit because I feel like everyone freaks out when we have these pullbacks, but I want to draw your attention specifically to this one right here, these candles. So retracement like this is completely normal and is healthy for a more upward continuation with the movement. Even if we were to pull back more than this previous bull flag, the overall setup remains bullish. So I'm liking it. I'm riding the setup here most certainly. What I would like to see here, ideally, if it doesn't happen, that's fine too, is a catch of this support that was previously resistance, back test it, and move higher from that level. Overall, Bitcoin's still looking good for me here. Y'all know my position on crypto and Bitcoin in general. I'm holding long. I wouldn't be selling any of my Bitcoin here personally. Several of the tickers look similar to that. I think that people got kind of wacky a bit on some of the tech tickers today, unfortunately, and this is kind of why I recommend people be more careful. So I'm looking at NVDA here, right? We had earnings last week. If I look at the daily, we broke that trend last week and now we have confirmed the rejection and are moving downward. So at this point, just like we talked about last week, we're looking at a potential test of this next trend line and confluence at support at 130.98. So that's going to be a potential downside move. We hit that level, we'll see what happens there. You can see that same thing as when we look for a bullish breakout and increasing volume to happen. Same thing applies with breakdowns to the downside. So you can see here that you have that increasing volume even following earnings. So that's something to be careful of because once that volume starts increasing like that, basically you can have sellers stepping in more and more. So people will start to panic sell a bit, especially if we test and break this support right here. Overall, here, let me flip on this automatic pattern thing as well that I started messing with TradingView. So I mentioned this to several people this morning that like I started looking at this because I am not going to use it to make trading decisions directly. However, I do like it because it kind of holds me accountable and helps me to confirm that I'm not making a biased decision one way or another with something I'm trading. So as of right now, you can see that we actually tagged the top of this rising wedge trend. That triangle basically is the previous setup that we broke out of. But as of right now, we could potentially even move down here and test this trend line. If we end up losing that rising wedge, the measured move is ridiculously low. So I'm not expecting that by any means. I still remain bullish on NVIDIA long term. This is why selling covered calls into earnings and then having those to hedge your position can be beneficial. But yeah, I would be really careful on NVIDIA here, especially if we lose this next support level here. You can see it's trying really hard. It bounced there, but we have to see what happens in the coming day or two, because if this confirms a break to the downside, we are going to test probably that 130.98 level. I'm going to hide this for a second just because it makes it really busy. But yeah, you've got that setup going on. Apple too. Like, I've remained neutral on Apple, and I'm choosing to still do so because while we've got the breakout to the upside with this green candle today, it's also, notice how it's flirting right here with this. See all these previous times that Apple has pumped really hard, like this massive green candle right here, which was actually the same type of setup, and then we rejected based off news and opened lower. This is why you want to be careful, because if I actually look at this and I turn on the pattern, notice how this AI or whatever generated thing that they use for the pattern is actually looking at this as a potential double top situation. If you look at it on 4 hour, same thing. So this is a rising wedge, which can be considered maybe a ascending triangle as well. So like I said, I'm remaining neutral here just until we see continuation of a bullish move to the upside. I do like the increased volume here. Like I was talking to some of the guys earlier today, for me, the risk to reward right now to swing call options on Apple just isn't really there. If I'm going to spend $400, $500 on a call option contract for February or further, there's a lot of other things I would rather trade right now that I can maximize bigger percentage gains without the sort of risk to reward being lacking like this. Because if I'm putting up $400 a contract, I don't really want to shoot for 10 to 20% gains on something right here that could potentially reject at that resistance. So I'll be watching this. If we get the breakout to the upside, I like the continuation movement. Really what I'm looking for here is on the daily, that follow through candle. So we got one, but really here you've got a lot of overhead. So like I said, I want to see what happens here, see if we can follow through and get momentum going. We're seeing a lot of rotation at the moment, which is a good thing. IWM is a good reflection of that. Which also I trimmed and locked gains on a lot of my IWM calls Friday and today because I saw some weakness starting to happen. So we can still push to the upside more here, but one thing I do want people to be cautious of with IWM is notice how we perfectly rejected today and happened to close right below this previous high. So that's the level I was watching really closely. I'm still in some runner IWM calls here, but I've definitely already trimmed those to cover my cost basis plus net profit. So at this point, any additional gains are just additional gains on top. So watching this to see what IWM does. QQQ, SPY, and several others, really they could kind of go either way at the moment. And there's a lot of risk going on. I will go ahead and just, to be safe, I'll delete this bear flag potential setup because we did push just above it. That being said, we're not in the safe zone just yet. So the measured move I have here is up in that range. That being said, we're still at risk. We're riding really close to this trend line. We came back and we back tested, so that's good. But overall, I want to see tech push harder. And in my opinion, even with the money flow kicking over to Apple, with NVDA being kind of a sandbag at the moment, unless NVIDIA can hold support and bounce, tech's going to continue to struggle because majority of the movement we've seen the last 12 months has been driven by AI, Frenzy, and NVIDIA more specifically. So if we see further downside breakdowns with NVIDIA, it's going to drag down the tech sector just because the relationship. But overall, we'll see what happens. Shifting gears a little bit because there's several tickers that people are asking about over here. So Palantir is one that we have continued to make awesome gains on. We got into some $75 calls on the retest here back in this range, which turned out great. And it broke out to a new high today, which was awesome. Those options we swung long term actually crossed, I think, 32.73%. So, and that's 3,200% for those that aren't kind of following along. But right now, we're in the breakout move. We'll see if we can hold it out. Same thing as what I called out on Apple, though, here, just being devil's advocate and being safe. I did notice that we rejected at that same level that previously was our high. So you want to be careful with that because that might show that the supply zone here is a bit too strong and that we might see more downside retracement before we can move higher. Sorry, still getting over the cold. But Palantir is still a good long-term stock. I'm loving this one. A lot of the crypto tickers are pulling down in after hours and did today because of the movement we've seen with crypto. Like I showed you on Bitcoin a few minutes ago, I'm personally not concerned at all. And if anything, I was hoping for this opportunity, like I mentioned on the live stream last week, to see a little bit more pullback on some of these tickers so that I could add more long-term calls for next year. Because crypto's going to keep on ripping. So, Mara, we broke above that resistance level, right? See how we closed above it? This is good. Especially if we can hold. It's probably below it in after hours. Yeah. See? What I'd like to see tomorrow during active trading hours is a push above and holding above that resistance. That would be good. Let's see. Riot's another one we're watching pretty closely. I'm trying to go through these a little bit quicker because you can always pause the video and look at the levels to kind of see support and resistance levels if you want to. Grab a sip of my coffee, hold up. But overall, things remain bullish. So, look here. Still very much bullish breakout. If I turn on the little trend thingy that I was showing you earlier, breakout of a falling wedge as well as going to potentially test out that trend. So, what other tickers are on my list over here? Let me check real quick. I'll make sure I'm not skipping any. Tony really just put his whole damn list of all his active positions and they're like, hey, look at these. Yeah, Tony, let me look at those for you. Which a lot of them are things that I'm into. So I'm good with that. They're from alerts and stuff, but so Intel, great entry here on this breakout setup we got going on. So I'm looking for the move to the upside there. There was some good bullish movement in the options flows today. So went ahead and added to some longer term swing calls here. I'll phase into those accordingly if we see more pullback. It looks like crypto's pulling back a little bit more, which is great. I'm not selling any of my longer term cold storage holdings if anyone is asking, so I'm kind of get used to the riding the ups and downs a little bit there. Healthy retracement, like I said earlier, is very much good. Can't stress about it. But Intel, we can pick up some momentum and buying here. That'll be solid. Hate sick. So, what is the next ticker? We're looking at Intel. Intel, here's your levels. Watching that, see where it goes. Palantir we looked at. Run is another one we entered today. I'll show you why. So I saw some flow come through for it on one of my screeners. So I was like, okay, that looks good. I went and looked at the technicals and I was down. So see here that this actually got a nice little double bottom setup going on with it. I'll be watching carefully to make sure that this doesn't form into a bear flag. But I did like how it filled the gap there and then it moved higher. So if we can push above this level, especially with this volume increasing, this is a great, cheaper swing trade for some people. We eased in some calls today. Let's see what the patterns are kind of showing here. So it looks like it's actually catching this double bottom as well, which I would be all for if it wants to pull some magic like that. But looks like a solid entry at a solid demand zone as well. So this is a good long-term swing trade that's relatively cheap, both shares and option-wise for people. I might actually alert some shares for this tomorrow. We'll see. Another one that I've been kind of watching a similar setup. Let's look at Lucid real quick and then we'll switch to Rivian. So interesting thing over the weekend. I told some of the people in Discord this. We went to our community group for church yesterday, and as we're pulling in the neighborhood, there's a Lucid Motors like truck in the neighborhood, not like a electronic vehicle like you drive around, but an actual like a repair guy or like a technician. So I didn't know that there was even one of those out here where I'm at, because the closest dealership I believe is like 45 minutes away. But that's promising to see that they even have active techs in the area to service Lucid Motors. I've seen more and more on the road. This weekend we took the kids to a park that's like 45 minutes away, and there was actually one over near that park as well. So oddly enough, you're starting to see more Lucid Motors vehicles out on the road. I don't expect them to be anything like Tesla, right? And they don't pitch or try to be. I think it's kind of the important thing to call out. They're more of a niche player that is really going to stand out from that perspective. But overall right here, I'm looking for an upside breakout move potentially on this. You look at this from a larger time frame setup at this huge rising wedge. I'm sorry, falling wedge. Can't talk. if we can break out to the upside here with momentum, which we're already breaking out of this short-term one, right? If we break out to the upside, the move could be huge. And Lucid's one of those that there's so much of the shares held by the Saudi fund at this point that like it doesn't take a whole lot of movement from other institutional investors to get a big ripper breakout. So you can see we're breaking out at this setup at the moment. We'll see what happens to the upside on it. Again, not relying fully on these patterns, just looking for those aligned with kind of what I already look at to see how they match up as well. So Rivian got another big green candle today. See here, we actually entered some more Rivian calls when we got that pullback, and then it looks like it's trying to sustain a nice solid bounce. That's a nice big increasing volume candle, which is great. What I would like to see here is more bullish continuation to the upside. So I'm seeing way too many Rivian trucks in the neighborhood at the moment with Amazon deliveries. I mean, they've been at our house like 5 times alone the last 2 days, and it's all different drivers and trucks. I've been kind of checking and watching that because I don't want there to kind of be like this false idea that there's tons of trucks and it's the same one I'm seeing over and over again. No, it's not that. They're all different numbers. So Amazon's got tons of Rivian trucks out and about in a lot of metropolitan areas. With Amazon relying on Rivian that much, I really don't see Rivian going belly up by any means. So definitely still long here. Good entry probably for some calls here, as well as if you're into shares, just a good entry for shares if you're into a long-term hold. Same thing with Lucid. If you want kind of a higher risk trade, if you're okay with the high risk of Lucid, the shares are dirt cheap right now. So I plan on buying probably a couple thousand of them this week, just to kind of have a little bit of shareholding in it, just in case Lucid does pop off and do something crazy. It'll be nice to ride some shares as well as calls, but seeing some nice movement on some of these EV tickers at this point. Let's see, what are the others that are on the list? So Starbucks, yeah. Starbucks calls served us well again today because it pushed a little bit higher. Slow and steady breakout going on here. You can see we pushed up again. So what I'm looking for is to see, are we going to move to the 104 level and test that trend, or are we going to move back and retest this as support? We'll see how time plays out with Starbucks. We spend too much money there, so it's always packed when we go. All like 6 or 7 of the Starbucks in our town are always packed, so it's not like they're lacking for business. SoFi is another good one that is in nice bullish continuation. So we've continued to trade calls on this multiple times. Still in runner calls from the initial setup, as well as re-entered calls on the retest on that last move. But SoFi is definitely one that's ripping. And again, this is another one of those stocks that you don't have to trade $400 per contracts for something that's several months out like you would on Apple or Microsoft or some of the big tech tickers to sustain significant gains. So definitely kind of open up to other mid-market or mid-cap and small-cap stocks, I think is a good recommendation as we kind of roll into next year. Right now, you're seeing sector rotations coming into play as well. So seeing lots of good movement. Open. Let me look at Open. Open is another one that we enter. Let's see. Yeah, I looked at Starbucks for you. Let me look at Twilo here in a minute and Docu. But Open was one that I think people had given up on some long-term swing calls that I alerted for this one. But the setup was there, and it just goes to show the power of the unusual Wells flow as well. Because this is one of those that I think most people probably would just not even looked at the ticker. And I noticed some of the options in the flow recently on one of my screeners. It stood out a lot for Open, so we got in those, and those actually ended up ripping today, doing 61% gains, and they were so cheap too. So that was a really good example of some options that you don't have to have a huge account in order to be able to trade them, because those contracts were like $20 each whenever we got in them. And yeah, 20 to whatever we went to, what was it? Almost $40. So yeah, it's $20 gain per contract, but keep in mind percentage gains is more important to look at when you're scaling and growing your account. And honestly, it's more important to look at in general because it keeps you honest when you're looking at different size accounts. If you're trading multiple accounts like I do or others do across your portfolio, 50% gains is 50% gains, whether it's a $500 account or a $50,000 account. So if you're looking at percentage gains instead of sitting in something for dollars gains, then you'll end up doing better. So open. Let me look real quick at Docu. Docu's got a nice little breakout going on, which it already completed the measured move for our setup previously. Analyzer, I'm late. You said, "Oh shoot!" I thought the stream went down or something for a second because it said on there disconnected for the chat and it was wanting to reconnect. So I thought that something went down with the internet for some freak reason. It's kind of weird looking outside right now here in Texas, but at any rate, yeah, we already traded the setup as it is right now for the measured move. That being said, this thing still got more. So I definitely trimmed off a big bulk of mine on Docu over the last few weeks with each of those resistance levels, and trimmed off all but like one runner today when we tapped that target. So that's a great way to trade, just to kind of trim along the way to cover your cost basis and then ride out the remainder from there if you want to ride longer. So Docu's looking good. I'd like to see more continuation to the upside. I would be careful with this because we tagged that first measured move already, and then on top of that, you also have earnings coming up. So risk definitely gets higher rolling into earnings. I'd say be careful if you're going to trade that more. Hey, Analyzer, you didn't... Yeah, whatever you missed so far, dude, you can still watch it after the fact, too. I always leave the live streams up. I might trim the, waiting lobby music off or something so you don't have to actually dig through it, but... or listen to it, but... Yeah, the live video will still be available after I close up shop tonight, so... Twilo, I don't think I have Twilo actually charted. I don't. Okay. Alright. Technical analysis session. Let's learn. We're going to use this one. I started thinking through this a lot and kind of writing it down while we were at church yesterday too, on how to simplify this, and I'll put this in a separate video or I'll clip this out for people. But when I'm charting, what do I look at? The first things I would recommend looking at is levels of support and resistance on the weekly time frame, and then work your way down from there. So I'm going to go ahead and mark right here, and ideally you want multiple touches of whatever level it is. If I zoom out here, I can kind of see that this level over here was resistance at some point, and it remained as resistance across that time frame. So that's cool. But also, more importantly, I'm wanting to see how this is a rising. You know, this actually is a nice little setup. Huh, good call. Good call bringing this one up. Let's look at it. So, you had support that was trickling along the way here. I really would like to be more conservative when I mark this and mark it somewhere up in there. That being said, we'll see how those levels hold. But yeah, what I would do is I would mark this kind of ballparkish like this on the weekly. And I'm doing this fast just for the sake of kind of showing you, because there's not an exact science to this, regardless of what certain books or people may tell you. Everybody charts a little bit different. I tend to be more conservative with the way I chart in general. So I would mark my support and resistance levels on the weekly, and then I'd jump over the daily. And you're going to do the same thing there. So, like I said, ideally you want to see if a level's been respected across multiple points. Like you can see it rejected over here multiple times, then it moved down. This looks like it held as a support range at least once, but then also over here it held a support range again. I'm going to go ahead and mark it just so that I can see it as a reference point. So support there, and then if you look over here, it looks like it actually played as a little bit of a support. So I'm just going to leave that there as a reference. I'm going to go ahead and mark a resistance up here in this zone too, because that resistance level there also was a support level here. So you've got a little bit of consistency going on there. And again, this is not an exact science by any means. When you're charting, it's really going to also help, depending on what time frame you're looking at, to see what's going on. So what do we have here? I don't love the big gaps on the chart, and honestly I haven't traded this ticker in a very long time, if I even did. I remember the ticker coming up a couple of years ago quite a bit, but I haven't personally traded it. So I do also mark while I'm doing my technicals any of the gaps from the daily that haven't been filled yet. Let me... Magnet mode's on. Why is that not... There it goes. I don't love that the gaps are lingering because gaps tend to get filled. That being said, you can see that it rejected at that resistance level as well. And remember, I drew that based off of these resistances over here. I didn't draw it based off the current rejection. It just happens to be exactly where it rejected today. So those historical levels can be your friend. That being said, this one looks like it might reject here. It might move back down to that 90 level. It might move back to fill that gap. I would look to see if it can get over that resistance and move higher. At the moment, it looks like it came off good earnings, which gapped it up, and it's been running since. So you want to see what can happen at this point. Historically, we can see that in this range, this thing can really get to running. I don't recall why it ran so hard in 2020. I think it was caught up in the meme craze, but that being said, I'd keep an eye on this. Actually, I'm going to add this one to my favorites. I'm going to watch it as well because it looks like it may have some potential for a swing call trade at some point, but I'm going to wait and see what it does at this resistance level personally. Let's see, jumping over to Uber real quick as requested from Analyzer. So yeah, like I was telling you the other day on Uber, it was getting a breakout on that downtrend, but also it looks like it got some continuation. So it's breaking out at this moment. We'll see if it can push above that resistance level. I would have, if I was trading this like a fresh setup, I would have traded the breakout, and then my first price target that would have taken profits out would have been that resistance. So it looks like it wants to move up higher. How's the volume looking on the daily? It's not terrible, but it's not great either. So, I mean, really, I would like to see a little bit more volume. It's a slight increase, but really to push through these resistance levels and these supply zones as you go up, you want increasing volume to help give it that boost to get it through. We'll see if it can do that or not. Loom Square. Yeah, let me look at Square real quick because I know that some people are still in the swing calls that we traded. So Square's still in the same setup and respecting it. I'm gonna look at it on the weekly to see the inverse head and shoulder setup. So, like I mentioned earlier today, Squarespace, I would really like to see break out above that resistance level and move up from there if it can. The measured move would be in this range. If I want to be more conservative about this, I could do this since I see it's a resistance over here. I am curious what, like the automatic thing. So see, look, it sees the same exact head and shoulder setup as what I drew. So that's what I was talking about, liking this kind of chart pattern thingy, not because I'm going to rely on it, but it helps me to see my charting and thinking of things correctly as I'm going through this. So it did, which is nice to see. So these inverse head and shoulder setups like this, especially with the increase in volume, are a sweet setup to trade calls on. So we entered calls off the first bounce and it ripped up because I saw it on one of my screeners. So definitely still riding some runners here. I did cover my cost basis already on mine though, so that's why I feel comfortable riding mine a little bit longer. I would be careful on a fresh entry ride at resistance like this. I would wait until we get confirmation above. So, oh cool. Analyzer took gains at 40% on that one today, so good stuff. We did that, so let's look at Lumen. Yeah, Lumen's another nice breakout here. I'm gonna mark this because I'm curious if it sees the bull flag. I haven't looked at it yet. Starting to get the vibe that the chart pattern thing doesn't actually. Oh, I'm on the weekly still. Shoot. Okay, so see. And if y'all are like, what the hell is he talking about? How do you know it's a bull flag or a bullish pennant? You look at the charts enough and it starts to make sense. And like if you keep kind of watching videos like this, I think as crazy as it is and as much as it can suck kind of sitting through them, you'll learn more by seeing practical application of stuff like this as compared to sitting through a 20-minute video that specifically talks about like perfect technicals. Because in reality, when you're looking at a lot of these patterns in the wild, if you will, they're very rarely exactly perfect. However, you'll start to notice how there's consistency to them. So bullish flag, bullish pennant here. Analyzer say just entered more Lumen calls in today, so sweet for you, especially if it can bounce. I'd like to see it hold that level. I do also see that it filled that gap that it left right there. Look at it on the daily so you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. So it left this gap to the downside, and then it rejected when it filled that gap. So if you're just new with charting with me, I leave them dotted when it's a gap that hasn't been filled. Once it's been filled, I make it solid, because those end up serving as historical levels of support and resistance, just in case. So yeah, like ideally from a technical standpoint with this bullish breakout, you get your initial breakout, you retest that breakout level as support instead of resistance, and then you have more upward continuation. So that's actually aligns well with what they have here as the target, which is your measured move of your pole. So where's the historical levels on this? Okay, so that's beautiful. And this is why I really like mapping historical levels of support and resistance. So I'm going to be conservative about this, and I'm going to mark it lower than what that measured move target is, because I'd rather lock gains a little early than sit in it too long. And if you trade long enough and you kind of get the hang of it, you stop trying to get in exactly at the absolute bottom or the absolute top. Instead, trade based off the confirmations, and then trade based off of whatever makes most sense from a conservative standpoint. There's still plenty of gains to be had that way, but overall you'll notice your consistency across all of your trades will become much higher, and you'll grow and scale your accounts much faster that way, as compared to trying to get every little tidbit you can out of any given trade. You're going to end up burning yourself, and you'll end up netting less gains over time by doing so. So I'm glad you brought this one up, Analyzer. I actually probably will add calls myself to this tomorrow if I can see it hold the support level. I like that setup. I need to go look at the flows on my screener to see if there's still bullish momentum coming through from that, and make sure that, you know, people aren't exiting out and going bearish on it. But I definitely like the setup as of right now on it. So that one's looking good. What other tickers did we have? Why can't I see what you have there? Docu, Joe. Why did the stock drop so much? Which stock, Joe? Are you asking if it dropped so much? I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but you said drop so much. I'm going to look at Solver real quick, because this is one that I know a lot of people over on Bullish Trade have traded calls on it. Like, I've scalped calls a couple of times on it, but just for clarity and just so everyone's on the same page, this is not where it currently is. It failed its phase 3 trials, and the news came out this morning, and this thing took a massive, I'm talking about like massive drop in pre-market. So yeah, it was over 85% drop. So the price of Sava is actually down here right now. Yeah, there, you can see it on the 4 hour. So that was a huge drop. I know a lot of people were like, oh, I'm going to buy the dip. And I know one guy that scalped calls this morning, and he did. But me personally, I'm not touching this graph right now, because that, from what I understand, was their only drug that they had currently in flight for testing. And I believe that they halted with the idea of doing a second pass in the phase 3. So I don't know what that means for the future of it. Unfortunately, it could mean that that's the end of Sava here soon. We'll see what happens. But switching over to Google as well, because Google's another that's had a great setup that we've been trading. You can see in here, I'm going to remove this to show you what I've been looking at before we look at what that thing added, because I just started using that thing today to see how it aligns with what I've been looking at. But on Google, right, we saw the rejection here recently. We came off that key resistance level. Google's got a crap load of additional antitrust lawsuits that keep flooding in at this point. So we entered 170 puts and trimmed to cover our cost basis up in this area. Those things ripped and hit 380% here on Friday. So Google's going to try to get its bounce on, it looks like here, but I would be careful. Historically, Google can build out a bit of a bear flag and break down further. I don't know what patterns this thing's flagging. It looks like it doesn't actually catch like bear flags for some reason, but it is showing that it had a rising wedge that broke down from with a measured move down here. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised to see Google tap that 158.25 gap it left on the chart. I know a lot of y'all have heard me over the last couple of months mention how key that 167 level is on Google. Yeah, Analyzer, I mean, you do what you want, dude, but I personally wouldn't buy calls on Google here, just because it can be very hit or miss, and all it takes is one additional news thing to come through overnight if you're on swing calls on Google to just wreck them, and they never recover because of the way the premiums work. So unfortunately, it looks like right now there's more more bearish setup going on with Google than bullish. I mean, yeah, you've got that inverse head and shoulder we've been monitoring on the daily chart, but this retest here is a bit further along than what I would typically want to see with a back test. I mean, normally our back test on Google would be that back test right in there. So watching this, again, I won't be trading calls on it. I won't actively be trading fresh puts on it either. Same thing as I mentioned earlier with Apple, is I want to look for confirmation of a breakdown or breakout to the upside on something before I trade it. Just because the premiums can be out of whack. If I was going to trade something on Google, I'd probably stick with a shorter dated, quick lotto type trade, regardless of direction. That way I could benefit from the rapid move, because Google tends to have very sporadic rapid moves when it does break one direction or the other. So, yeah, that's where Google currently stands. NVDA we looked at earlier, so if you scroll back on the video, you'll see that. What others do we have here that we haven't gone through that I need to cover? So GameStop is another one that I am really digging the setup from bullish standpoint, because it's going with the look at the breakout, and this gets my inner ape from 2020 2021 all hyped up. But look at that, like that is a backtest and breakout, bull flag breakout on GameStop. Looking at it with like their pattern indication thing as well, it looks like it is flagging based off of a double bottom setup and a falling wedge breakout, which you can see they don't necessarily align. So like I said, take it with a grain of salt, the standard pattern thing that it's tracking. But look at this on the weekly. So if GameStop actually picks up some volume and momentum here, especially with the earnings next week, this sucker could rocket. I will say be careful with the IV and IV crush on GameStop heading into earnings, just because things can get so wacky. You know, I might just gamble and buy like 100 shares. I haven't owned shares on GameStop in a long time. I might buy some shares on GameStop and sell a covered call or two. Just because that setup on that breakout after that retest of that downtrend is tempting. And then, of course, since GameStop's pumping, you've got some movement going on with AMC, I'm sure. Look at it, see. Yep. So it's trying to break out of its downtrend as well. Thanksgiving week is historically like a hot box office type week. So AMC tends to release news and updates Thanksgiving week. Also, remember they did have solid earnings last time. So AMC not hyping this from a meme 2021 type standpoint, more so like from a technical standpoint, it looks like it might make sense here. I'm curious what patterns, if any, this thing's flagging. So it looks like it's got like a double bottom setup with a measured move up in that $8 range-ish. 801. Yeah, all you OG apes will understand the 801 reference there. So I'm down for another battle of 801. That would be sweet, but we'll see what happens. Let's see, I know it's after 5 o'clock here, so let's see, is there any other tickers specifically that people are requesting? Where's some of the random altcoins we looked at this weekend? Let me find them real quick, because I know some of y'all were like, what altcoin project can I jump in? And I think that it'll be interesting to see how things shake out with crypto getting a slight pullback. This is your time to jump into things that you've been holding off and jumping into. Don't be surprised when everybody takes their Christmas money and throws it into crypto. So Solana is another that hit its perfect measured move target there, and now we're back testing here. So I really want to see what Solana can do here. That didn't do what I wanted it to. I want to see if it can hold that range right there and continue the upside momentum. See, does it flag anything on Solana? On any of the chart levels? So yeah, they at least mark a bullish pennant, like a bull flag here. So the measured move they have is like around that 289 level. So this is one of my favorite projects for next year. What was the other one that we were in? So there was Solana. And y'all know I'm in tons of crypto, so this is more of just like what are the newer things that we entered. But Solana and Bonk was another one that we started messing with some. Caspa was a good one. Stellar Lumens, here's the chart setup for that. And like a lot of those coins for security reasons are going to be good going into the next few years. Stellar Lumen, again, that right there is a bull flag, so even though this thing doesn't seem to catch it. So like looking at that from this standpoint, I'd like to see some consolidation here. Like these retracements are a good thing. You don't, yeah, I'll look at Matic too for you, Moorhead. I personally love this. This is where I would be looking to add more to a position long term, or like I've mentioned to a lot of y'all, I'll trade crypto leverage futures short and long. So if I see we're rejecting off a level, I'll trade leverage short futures that are leveraged like 20x or 50x. I'll take the gains from shorting that to the downside, and then I'll buy more of the actual crypto to transfer to my cold storage wallets with those gains. And I'll rinse and repeat over and over again. I've been doing it since 2017, and it works out really well. Crypto's not going anywhere. A lot of these projects are just getting started with their movement. Let me look at Matic real quick for buddy here. Let's see. Same thing here. Notice how it's still retaining that bull flag. So, like I said earlier today when people were asking about it, because we did enter a fresh trade down here on Matic. That being said, if you're holding for years, like I do with a lot of my crypto, you're not going to care whether you buy it here, or if you buy it here, or if you buy it down here. If you're holding long term, this range is fine to buy it. If you're wanting to trade it more short term and buy and sell and try to rinse and repeat, I would probably wait for a retest of the next support if we get there. I will caution you, because if you buy on Coinbase or Robinhood or something, you're going to pay a lot of fees, to where you need fees in the spread of what you actually pay on those exchanges to buy it, but you'll need more than like a 5% gain. Is just kind of a ballpark estimate. 5% more upside gain to be able to actually make gains on that position. Even then, it's probably going to like take some of your money when you go to sell. So like when I kick some of the Stellar Lumen around this weekend between wallets, I noticed when I like sold off the little bit of portion that was left in my Robinhood account, it ended up giving me like $40 less or something than what the value was, which I didn't care. I was transferring it off anyways, once I actually bought the other Stellar Lumen. But having said, just something to keep an eye on. Matic and Polygon, again, that's one that's going to crank during alt season. More specifically, XRP is another good one that I know people are hyping right now. I will, as much as I'm bullish on a lot of these cryptos like XRP and Stellar Lumens and some others, I will caution you that ever since, like I've been in crypto since 2017, right? And historically what I've seen is that you get a lot of hype and excitement that comes with certain cryptos that maybe the government is okay with for certain reasons. But time and time again, I can tell you that anything crypto related that also is regulated by the government ends up getting wrecked by the crypto whales, sometimes to prove a point, other times because like basically a lot of the big money that was in that crypto was in it because of the actual core aspects of crypto being, you know, more privacy, deregulation, all the benefits that come with crypto. And I'm not saying shady stuff, but more so just the benefits from more of a freedom type mindset. But be careful with XRP and some of the others that are all part of the ISO for next year. I know Chris was mentioning that, and I'm not saying don't trade them by any means, because y'all know I've got big holdings in quite a few of these, but just something to keep in mind and be careful of. Same reason why you see a lot of the ETFs be really hyped and really big, and then after the ETFs come to fruition, they're basically downhill from there. Same thing with Ethereum. When Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake because it made it more beefy and respected and safe for governments to be okay with it, let's all be clear that that basically happened at the peak over here. Okay, like that's not bueno. Like so just something to keep in mind. Like there are benefits to certain cryptos going mainstream, but typically what I've seen over the years is once you have those mainstream cryptos start to go more mainstream and get more government involvement, you see a lot of the bigger monies, whales and wallets start to shift over to new projects at that point. So that's why you want to trade cautiously on a lot of these, as well as kind of don't put all your eggs in one basket in a sense. Like, don't just put it all in XRP or all in Stellar Lumens because you know that they're ISO compliant and they're going to be okay and the government's going to be happy with them. Like, just be careful. That's all I'm saying. Because a lot of these projects will end up getting really throttled or hindered based off that. Unfortunately, is the way that it works. So, ADA is another good example of that, where back in 2021, everyone hyped about it because of the tokenomics and the fundamentals and how it worked. But then once the Chinese government got actively involved, like, ADA was just throttled at that point, and that's why I've chose to not really actively chase ADA or get involved yet again, just because from my standpoint, it's got too much involvement from the Chinese government. So I personally have very small holdings. Actually, I don't even know if I have any holdings of ADA. I'm sure I do on one of my cold storage wallets, but I dumped a lot of mine back in 2021 when all that was happening. So just be careful. Another one that people are going to hype, and unfortunately a lot of the people that hype a lot of these projects are bag holders from 2021. So just because something's mainstream doesn't mean that it's a better crypto project than others. A lot of the stuff on the Solana blockchain will do well. Another realm that you should keep an eye on is Kronos. So CRO, which is also Crypto.com's blockchain, in case you're not familiar with it. See if it's even on here. It should be on here. Yeah, see how it's not on Binance? It's because it's Crypto.com's crypto, so therefore they don't have it. Coinbase has it because they're American based, but this is one that when it launched and Crypto.com had their blockchain and had all their altcoins on their chain, it ripped and went crazy, and then kind of gone downhill since. But this will be another one that once alt season really hits, you'll see a lot of bullish movement come from Matic, Polygon. Same thing, by the way, for those that aren't familiar, from Kronos, from Tezos. A lot of these kind of altcoin chains that are completely isolated blockchains, they'll be doing really good. So just something to keep an eye on. And I have started calling out, looking at any yeah, so Moorhead asked if I was looking at any initial coin offerings. So like IPO for a stock or a company, but initial coin offerings more specifically for crypto. So the drawback, or kind of the thing that comes up with the ICOs or even just altcoins or coins in general that are super early on and are still low cap, is you want to find companies that, I'm going to say companies even though I probably shouldn't, but you want to find cryptos that have a solid, like, fundamental idea. They have good tokenomics. They have a solid white paper with a vision or roadmap that shows that they have their crap together and know where they're going. If you look at any of those things and they lack, don't touch it, because there are tons of pump and dumps out there. Y'all know I'm a huge crypto advocate, so like in no way am I saying that like all crypto is pumping up, because there are people that feel that way and that's just not the case. But you definitely want to check those things minimally, and from there, if you see that a company has a lot of promise, sure, there's nothing wrong with throwing, $100, $200 or a small amount of money at some of those companies while they're still super small scale, whether that's right at ICO and they first hit the blockchain, like for actual exchanges. But what you have to be careful of too is that a lot of those coins are actually already doing pre-ICO situations with Trust Wallet and like other ways that people can buy into it before it ever hits active exchange. So a lot of the huge crazy growth of thousands and thousands of percent that you see from a lot of people with crypto, it's not from once it hits an exchange. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because I've got 2 or 3 like that actively were on exchanges before they ripped significant amounts, but those huge, enormous gains you see from people typically are from people getting in before it ever actually hits active exchange, because by that point, your liquidity flips, you've got people selling off, you have to be careful at that point for pump and dumps as well, because people basically dump off and sell the news as soon as it hits the exchange. So again, not saying don't do it, just something to keep in mind. There's even a couple of projects that I threw some money in over on LBank, like Sense, for instance, is one random project that I was looking at. I was like, okay, they might have some promise and might get some hype movement as we roll into alt season. NFT Art Finance is one from back in 2021 that just took a total dump and is down like 98% or something, but I went ahead and threw a couple $100 at it just in case it does rip with alt season and NFT as people are starting to do more smart contracts and stuff. Bonk is another one that is still relatively low cap at this point. I'm going to close out this video talking through real quick SHIB, because I want people to understand something real quick on SHIB and why if you see somebody saying Shiba Inu is going to $1, that you need to basically just ignore anything that that person or that YouTube channel or that website says going forward ever again. So SHIB, okay? People look at this, they'll be like, it's got 4 zeros just like Doge used to have. I need to show you something that is something very important, and this is also what you need to check on any new project. If you look at SHIB, okay, on CoinMarketCap, let's do some math really quick so that people can understand this, okay? So SHIB, if I show you real quick, where are we at? All right, circulating supply. There's 589 trillion SHIB in supply, okay? So that is total supply of SHIB, and yeah, some of it's burned, but there's still 589 trillion SHIB tokens out there. If SHIB was $1, that is $589 trillion. To put that in perspective, let's do this real quick so that y'all can understand the market cap implication of that. Total value of all U.S. stock exchange companies. The complete total market value, and I assume this maybe, I don't know if this counts derivatives or not, but the complete total market value of U.S. stock market, including NVDA and Apple and all of those, is $55 trillion, okay? So you're basically saying that SHIB would have to have basically all of the magical money of the stock exchange, right? And pretty much every single stock exchange in the world and most tangible assets in order to become worth $1 or $589 trillion market cap. So that's why that's not feasible. So whenever you see people trying to recommend or say that like SHIB's going to $1, get in now, like no, that's not how that works. So that's why you need to keep in mind market cap matters. Some guy this weekend on Facebook said, yeah, but market cap's different with stocks compared to crypto. Crypto's different. I'm like, yeah, no, it still doesn't work that way, dude. Yeah, see, morehead, you get it, right? So, I don't think most people are thinking through that, but market cap is an important thing to understand, because I'm not saying that, like, crypto can't have a ridiculous market cap, because if you would have asked people 5 years ago if crypto would have ever got to where it is now, which I think is like 3.3 something trillion is the total market cap of crypto. It's like 3.3, 3.4 trillion or something, but that's all crypto. That's including Bitcoin, Ethereum, like every blockchain you have is in that 3.3, 3.4 trillion dollars. So if you would ask people 5 years ago, would that happen? They'd probably be like, no, a lot of them would. That being said, there's a significant difference between talking about the scale and growth that crypto has seen, or even the stock market has seen over the last 2-3 years, as compared to saying SHIB is going to $589 trillion market cap. So I saw a guy that mentioned it. I haven't ran the math yet, but he was talking about how Bitcoin's closer to $1 million than SHIB is to like a penny. And I haven't done the math again, but that maths to me. So like it makes sense. So it's just not realistic. So like, don't throw all your money into SHIB expecting it to go to $1 and cling to that dream. Like, I'm not saying that can't happen with other low cap type cryptos, but I mean, there's a reason like Doge and SHIB. SHIB 589 trillion, right? Like, look at Doge. If I can type, we'll be okay. 58 billion is this market cap right now. So, where's my total supply? Is it like the last thing that's loading? Here we go. So, yeah, total supply 146 billion, right? Billion. like you're missing a whole nother zero there. So like I just wanted to talk to that. Sorry if that was boring for any of you, but it's important to understand that like the difference between 146 billion compared to 689 trillion is ridiculous. So the idea that SHIB is going to do what Doge did is just flat out not realistic. It's not going to do a fraction of it. Ultimately, is kind of where we're at. Like if you got in on SHIB, you got some of the big run up, even though it's on its pullback from the previous highs. That's great. I happened to buy, I think, like $300 in SHIB back when it first went on Webull, which I don't encourage anyone to use Webull for crypto because it's not your crypto. But I had some random money at the time from some stocks or something I sold on Webull, so I threw $300 at SHIB, and I remember looking at that, and it had like 3 or 4x whenever SHIB had its huge run the previous time. It's like, oh wow. But again, market cap matters, so don't expect like SHIB or any other coin that has like trillions of tokens on its actual crypto. Like it's not going to rip to multiple dollars. Like that's just not realistic whatsoever because there's not enough money in the world. So on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and close out because I think the family's at the school park or something. But if there's any other stuff that y'all want me to look at, let me know. I know it's Thanksgiving week, so people are kind of in and out and everything else, and some are working, some aren't. But yeah, I'll be working most of the week. If there's something you want me to look at, just let me know. If not, that's cool too. But I'll be around. I'll be on the Discord and on Facebook and stuff if y'all need anything. If I don't talk to y'all, though, which I plan on doing a live stream tomorrow, Wednesday, but if I don't talk to y'all, hope everyone has a blessed and happy Thanksgiving. Get some time to relax. The market's closed on Thursday, reminder. So spend some time with your families. And I'm thankful for y'all. So y'all have a great evening and have a good one.